Welcome to the first episode of Kpop Mashup tutorials that I'm gonna start. This is just the very basic, but I feel like if you know the basic and the fundamental of how to make a mashup, it's gonna be very easy for you to make your first mashup and start your mashup journey on YouTube. So I'm gonna dig deep into that, so it's not pointless that you just learn how to make mashup, but actually becoming a mashup artist, because I feel like that should be your end goal, is to find your own style in making mashup. But you need to know the very basic and the fundamental of how to make mashup. You need to know about how song key works and why it's important. You need to know why tempo and matching the beats of the songs is important, because if you don't know these two things, you're going to make something that is very and then they're gonna comment a lot and say that you make very bad mashup, and then you're gonna feel really bad and you'll stop making mashup. So I wanna help you avoid all the mean comments out there. And the way I think I'm gonna build this tutorial sequence or series up is basically start with the basic, and then we're gonna work our way up until where I said, like, it's not necessary even to know these things in the end, but by knowing it, you can implement it however you want, and it's gonna become something different and unique by knowing these things. But let's go back and just get down to the basic, because that is always very important. Yeah, let's get into it. So first things first, there's some requirement in order for you to be able to make a mashup. You have to buy some things or have some things in advance. So you have to have a PC or a Mac, a MacBook, because you cannot really make a good mashup with apps. I've tried a lot of apps just to see if there is anything to be able to do some quick mashup on the go, but I haven't been able to find anything that is easier enough for me to recommend. So I recommend having a very good software. Personally, I use the DAW called FL Studio. So a DAW is what we call a digital audio workstation. So it's where you can manipulate samples and songs and audio files in this software. And that's what all the musicians and everybody who's in the music industry who produce music, they'll use a DAW. And there's a lot of different DAWs. There's Ableton, there's Logic Pro, there's Cubase, there's many. But what I use is FL Studio. It looks nice. It doesn't look confusing. Maybe in the beginning, but after you get a grasp of the tools and how it works, it's a lot easier than all the other programs. I would even say that it looks cartoonish compared to other professional program out there. But don't get me wrong, because the program is used by professional and it's more recognized now than ever before. So I'm going to recommend FL Studio 20. That's the software I use to manipulate all the sound and make things or mash up the songs. I'm also going to recommend very good headphones. Of course, in the beginning, you don't need a good headphone. You can use whatever headphones you got from your phone when you bought your phone or whatever. But later on, I would recommend that you buy studio headphones in order to be able to hear all the sound and all the frequencies, so you can better clear out and fix the sound of all the unofficial a cappella and instrumental there is out there. Then the mashup is gonna be more clear and sound better. I'm also going to recommend buying a MIDI keyboard. Doesn't necessarily need to be an expensive one, because the only thing I'm using the keyboard for is to find the key very quickly. But you don't need that, because in software you can just use your keyboard to press. But for me to visualize and see what I can do with the different songs and match the different songs, it's easier for me to have a physical keyboard, which is a MIDI keyboard. But it's not a requirement, it's optional. So a good PC, good headphones, and a good tool to make the mashup is important. And that's the three things that you need to have. So let's get into the first very important thing, which is the speed and tempo of a song. You need to know how that works. So I'm gonna try to explain it as best as I can. Speed of a song is calculated in something called beat per minute. And beat per minute just means that in 1 minute, they'll calculate how many beats there is in that 1 minute. And that gives out a number, which is the number that determines the speed. So when a song is 130, that means that there's like 130 beats in this 1 minute. And so when you make a mashup, you want to find song that is relatively close to each other by the beat per minute. So if you find a song that is 100 and a song that is 120, you need to speed up the 100 BPM song with 20 more beats in order to be on the same beat per minute as the 120, right? So the reason why you want to find it close is because when you speed up a song, that means you're compressing the song, right? You're pushing it closer together in order it to be faster. And when you are slowing down the song, you're stretching out the file. And that means that it's gonna be slower and it's gonna be very stretched out. And the reason I'm explaining this like compress and stretch is because like when you try to figure out if you should speed up a song or slow it down, that's what you should imagine in your head, and that's what you should be listening to. If the song is too stretched out or too pressed, does it sound too fast or does it sound too slow? And that will give you an idea of what you like. I'm not telling you what is correct to do, because in the end you have to just listen, and if it sounds good in your ear, that's all that matters, right? Personally, and my tip and what I have experienced is that whenever I take a song and I slow it down to fit a slower song, it gets shifted, right? So instead of where you say like it normally hits the beat here, the acapella typically gets like stretched, and you have to compensate with that and move it a little bit to the left in the door so it hits the beat more correct, you would say. And so when I take a song, let's say I take a song that is 120 and a song that is 130, I'll never find the medium of the two. So I will never say that I want to match these two into 125. I will, in the majority of time, always speed it up to 130. So that's my recommendation, especially in the beginning, that you do. Later on, when you're very good at making mashup, you can like try and slow it down and then try and see if you can fit it into the beat of the other instrumental. But in the beginning, just take the slowest song, speed it up to the fastest one. So now that you know about the tempo, we're gonna go deep into the song key. That's the second most important thing to know about when you make mashup. It's gonna be the hardest of the two. I think speed is a little bit easier to get a grasp on, but a song key is, you have to have some music theory. You have to know some basic stuff of how to make music or compose music. You just need to know that there's something called major and minor key. As a mashup artist, we don't really need to know anything else that to try and match these keys and how to determine the keys. So one way, the easiest way is to search it up, go into something called TuneBed, the website that I talked about, and then just Google up the name of it and find the key, and then you're good to go. The second way is to find your own key. And the way you find the key of a song is to find the root note of a song. And that's why I'm using a MIDI keyboard. So I'll find this one note that you can play anywhere in the song and it sounds correct. It sounds right. It doesn't sound off. That's how I determine the key of a song. And then after you do that, you can then determine the minor and major key of the song. I'll make a separate video of how I determine that. That's gonna be like more advanced. So the way you match up, let's say you find a song that is in two different keys, right? The problem is if the song is very far apart from each other, you have to pitch it. And that means you have to manipulate this. In the software, you can take the song's key and then you can change it into whatever key you want it to match into. That's possible with the software. And for each step that you take, it's called one semitone. In FL Studio, it's one semitone, but it's also 100 cents. So you have to know that. And so if you want to match a C major with a D major, you can see that there's like 1, 2 step from C to D. And so what I would recommend to do is always just find the medium of the two. So where does the two songs meet in the middle? So the song in D major has to be taken one step down, that's one semitone down, and the one with C major, the song in C major, has to be taken one semitone up. And then they'll meet each other at C sharp major. It's also called D flat major, right? And so if a song is too far apart, you're gonna pitch it too much, meaning the sound will be either too deep or too
high pitched.
And you need to do a lot of things to basically fix that. But a lot of software can like maintain the harmony so it doesn't sound like a chipmunk and stuff like that. And then you can do a lot of equalizing, and you can do a lot of compression and so on to make it sound nice. That's gonna be in another advanced tutorial that I'm also gonna do once I feel like you guys have a grasp on the basic. Then I'll release this tutorial as well. If you're new here, subscribe, and then I'll probably post it sometimes this year. But in the beginning, I just want you to find song that is relatively close to each other. Max 4 keys apart, no more than 4 keys. Ideally, you want to find song that is in the same exact key, but that is very hard to find sometimes, and it's gonna limit yourself a lot. So just experiment with different gaps between the songs. But later on, you can start to play around with it. But it needs a lot more work when you find song that is very far apart. You'll end up spending a lot of time trying to fix these things. So softwares can do it, but it has kind of limitation. I hope you guys got anything out of these. I'm sorry that it's only just talking, but I think it's very important to get a grasp of the basic. But I feel like I don't want to get too much into the details because it's gonna confuse you even more. So it's better that you just try it out and test things out and watch my other tutorials that I'm gonna link and see how I do it. And in that way, you're gonna experiment and you're gonna make some mistakes and you're gonna learn from it. And then after you tried it yourself, watch my next tutorial and it's gonna be easier to understand. I started a new tier on Patreon so I can specifically help the one that really wants to become a mashup artist, so I can give something in return. There's a bunch of tutorials out there, and you can find other tutorials. This is just my way of making things and what I have experienced, and what I'm trying to do as a mashup artist now is to find my style. I feel like I found my own style, but I still experiment a lot. So that's why you see so diverse mashups, and sometimes I'll do completely different mashup than other people do. And that is because I don't want to limit myself into just making mashup that is easy, meaning that is the song keys are close and the tempo is close. I want to experience everything, right? And get into the making all these mistakes and trying to fix, because a mashup artist is actually just trying to fix what is impossible and make things sound nice even though it shouldn't be, right? And that's because we know the basic. We have the basic tools, we know the tempo, we know how keys work, and that's why it's possible to do. So yeah, subscribe to the channel if you're new and if you want more tutorials, and become a patron if you want to be serious in making mashup. So you'll always have me as an advisor, and I can always go in and help you. And you can always contact me and I'll be very quick to help you, and I can do live sessions with you. And you'll also gain access to the list that I'm going to make with all the songs that I've tested in K-pop, what key it is in, and what tempo it is in. So it's gonna be checked by me, and if the song is not there, I'll try and add it as quick as possible. So yeah, thank you everybody who watched till the end. I know it's probably a lot, but I really hope that you keep on making mashup and don't be too discouraged by people who gonna slam you for not matching up the key or beat, but just take it as a criticism and try and improve on it. And I hope this video can help you improve on it. Yeah, so stay tuned for more videos, and see you on the next one.